Welcome to the Gin and Tonic Show, back for a second time in the space of 3 days, which is nice. We're bringing you the extra Sunday show tonight to discuss um, the Charlie Kirk situation. Although it's not really discussing Charlie Kirk as such, it's more Mohammed Hijab and his what I think is a ridiculous response to the whole situation. So, not going to be sort of getting into the partisan politics. I know there's been a lot of kind of online hysteria about this. I'm not really getting into that. I'm looking at the Mohammed Hijab perspective on this because I think it's kind of interesting. With me, as usual, is my co-pilot, Stop Spamming. Welcome, sir.
How's it? How's it? How's it?
And we also have a special guest today. It is Mo. He is a ex-Muslim. He is going to join us tonight to tell us a little bit about himself before we get into the video, just in terms of being an ex-Muslim, and then he's also going to help us review the video. So we did promise you some ex-Muslims on here. So Mo, you are very welcome to the show, sir.
Hello all. Thanks again. Really appreciate it.
And we love your icon of the driving cat. Which is really good.
Yeah, I was speaking to
The
you
cat,
earlier.
please note, the
Yeah.
cat is not wearing an hijab.
Aha. His name
Yes,
is
that's
Mo.
true. So it's an apostate cat. Now, Mo, before we get into the video, would you just like to sort of introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself as much as you feel comfortable with, in terms of who you are and your ex-Muslim status, and anything else you'd like to
Yeah.
go into?
Yeah. So yeah, as you said, I'm an ex-Muslim. I've been an ex-Muslim for 10 years or so, but two-thirds of my life I was a Muslim, like practicing, going to the mosque, memorizing the Quran. So I actually speak Arabic. I can read the Quran, I can write it. Obviously it's a bit rusty now, but at the time I could, read it and stuff. I can still do it obviously now, but to an extent, less of an extent. But so I think for me, being an ex-Muslim, I have like a different perspective, um, especially because when I was younger and I was reading the Quran, it didn't really hit me how bad it was and stuff like that, and how bad it was written. But when I look back, I'm like, I can't believe I used to believe those things. So yeah, that's it. Yeah,
That's a short version. If you don't mind, I just want to ask a
yeah.
couple of things. It's always really nice to have people who can speak Arabic. Are you actually a native speaker, or did you just learn it really well?
How do I put it? So the country I'm originally from, yes, they speak Arabic, and so I've learned it by going there every year on holidays and stuff. And my parents would speak it to me as well. But it's not like the Quran Arabic. So the Quran Arabic, as you know, is slightly different.
Classical, yeah,
So
classical
it's a
Arabic.
bit of a, yeah. So I have to learn that. I had to learn that. But apart from that, yeah, I can speak Arabic and stuff. So
Okay, that's
um,
cool. No, because that's
I would
always
say
really nice to
quite
have on the show.
more than advanced. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, because there will be a test later, so stop
Oh
be
no,
getting all fan questions.
damn it! Should have
No,
whipped out
well, actually, Stop
my
does
note.
speak a bit of Arabic, I think, but I speak none, so
Oh,
he could be.
I
I
can
think
speak
just his.
Arabic.
Yeah,
I
but
just
is
I
that?
thought you
pretend.
knew some just because of your many
Yeah, I
thousands of
know.
years
I
of
have a
Dharma
couple of
critique.
sentences and that's it. Yeah, sure. But
Oh,
that's,
okay, all right, fair enough. Anyways, yeah, so yeah, I mean, was there anything else you wanted to sort of talk about? I mean, did you want to go into a little bit of your experience, either leaving Islam or kind of
Yeah. Oh,
anything
yeah.
like that?
It, it's funny. We had a little chat yesterday. We were just going on one, isn't it? But maybe I got stage fright. But what would I like to say? Yeah. So um, growing
Or
up,
we could do it off
especially.
questions. We could do it off questions if you like.
Oh
That might
yeah,
make it
yeah. I
easier for
mean,
you. Because dude is anyone in the chat who wants to ask Mo a question, please do. Dude, ask at what age did you start first having doubts, and how long before you realised it all didn't make sense? Good question.
so when I was at school, I had a lot of friends, and most of them, I'd say probably all of them actually, when I look back at it, were Muslims. And it's just part of the culture. You get taught, Muslims are your homies. You stick with them, you'll be fine. So that's what I did. I just sort of hang around with Muslims, and um, we would always talk about religion. And so I think I was around maybe 16 when I started to have my first doubt. Um, but I don't think I was really like I wasn't really intelligent. I would say I wasn't really into like logic and how how things work. So my friend, who's I saw him as really intelligent, and he would just explain these things to me. I'd have these doubts, and he would explain them to me, and then I would be like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. And so the first one for me would have been um, the logical problem of evil,
Yeah,
and
yeah. That's
that was a
often
big one.
yeah,
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 and I think the other one actually was, the divine predetermination. Is that what it's called? That was a big one, and
yeah. Predetermination versus free will.
predestination. Yeah, yeah. And so like I had this issue where it just didn't make sense, and obviously it doesn't. And then my friend just said, look, it's one of those things that God can do paradoxes, and I just accepted it. So now I
And
know
the
that's
other
not
way
possible,
around,
but yeah, I know.
and
I know.
and the other way around, if you look back, I mean, you say there's like a decade ago. It's quite a long time. Do
Mm.
you still have what I hear from a lot of ex-Muslims who deconverted? Do you also have this sort of lingering fear of hell still inside of you?
Oh yeah, no, good question. So I was just thinking about earlier what to say, if this question came up. And so for now, now I don't. For the last, I'd say 5 years, I didn't. But the first 5 years, I was actually even scared to call myself an ex-Muslim in front of non-Muslims. You know, I would still say, oh, yeah, I'm still a Muslim. Like I was that scared
Okay.
to even just say it in case I would die tomorrow and, God would question me.
Yeah.
So
No,
for the last
I
5 years, no, I'm very happy. Yeah, I'm ex-Muslim, whatever. Yeah.
no, I think this is one of the things. I mean, I've said this previously on shows, but being raised Catholic, I had the kind of same thing. It took years before, even though intellectually speaking, sort of the concept of hell, it really doesn't make any sense. But like
Yeah.
emotionally, it really is hard to let go of that fear, and I think it takes
Or,
most people many years, whether you're Catholic or other Christian denomination or Muslim. Yeah, it's a common thing, I think.
mm. And I think like Stops was saying, like, I think some people still don't, and they just have to live their lives and they just can't get rid of it. But I think I was lucky in that sense. Or I've been lucky.
Yeah, it was good. And also, I'd say don't be too harsh on yourself. When you said, oh, you didn't think you was intelligent, bear in mind, you were 16 years old. I mean, all of us, our brains still grow in that age. I mean, when I left, I had my sort of doubts and started leaving a couple of years earlier, but it wasn't like I was doing some, great philosophy or something. It was more kind of, you think as a kid does, and then obviously you build on that and it becomes more intellectual as you go along. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't expect a
Mm.
teenager to be able to articulate it and think in more complicated ways in a way that somebody who lives in their 20s or their 30s or something. So I'm just saying, don't be too hard on yourself thinking, oh, I wasn't that smart, because you sound smart to me anyway.
Well, thanks for having my back. But
But Mo and No Hijab, if okay, we have Muslims listening, okay, they will
yeah,
sometimes they will pipe up, sometimes they don't. If Muslims are listening now, what is it that if somebody comes across this doubt phenomenon, which a lot of Muslims have,
mm.
would you tell them go and pray and see that it disappears, which is usually what the Imam says? Or would you say, no, go ahead and doubt even more? And if your God is not able to quell these doubts, then there's something wrong. What kind of a message would you give to somebody who is listening now?
Like, do you mean now what I would say now or before?
Now,
Like, yeah. I mean, now, yeah, I will tell Muslims to just think about it. I do have a lot of debates with friends or Muslims, colleagues and stuff like that, if the religion comes up. And so I always, people, if they do have doubts, I will say, yeah, look into it. Like, make sure you're looking at, if you want to look at your Muslim sources, fine, but also look at, ex-Muslims. There's so many online, like this channel as well. I've directed many people to this channel. I would never say to pray because, I mean, that would be a good way, right? Because then they would be like, oh, wait, prayer didn't actually work. But then again, how many times in their lives have they prayed and nothing's happened? So I don't know if that would work for them,
but this
but
is exactly the point. A lot of people don't realize that. A lot of
mm,
people, it's the hits and the misses. And this is this confirmation bias that people have that you pray and something happens and you make it fit. You know, it's just like throwing the knife and then drawing the target
Yeah,
around it. And this is
sharpshooter
what people
fallacy.
tend to do, because they want it to work. They want it to, to have a positive outcome. And this is what people are trying to do. And this is why I'm asking you what you would tell people, because you've been through it. And you know
Mm,
how difficult it is, and you know all the thoughts that people have to try and
yeah,
somehow avert this thing. No, I'm not allowed to have doubts. I'm not allowed to question this. I'm not allowed to have all these obvious shortfalls which I can see, and yet you have them. You see them, but you're not allowed to. So I've heard this so many times, and this is why it's so great to have somebody like you on the show here.
thanks. Yeah, I was actually thinking I did have a debate, maybe like not debate, but like a discussion years ago, and especially when it comes to prayer. My friend, he was at one of the. So I had one friend who was pretty much he just couldn't see, what was going on. But this other guy, he was a bit more like logical, and he was sort of understanding where I was coming from and how this doesn't make sense. And I was sort of bringing up like, especially when it came to prayer, I was talking about like the Harvard prayer studies and things like this. Like, if prayer does work, why can't we test it? There should be a way we could test it. Let's get
Exactly.
10 imams who are like really like you just know they're really religious. They don't do anything bad, and then you just make them pray over sick people and see what happens. And yeah, and he was sort of like understands it. Yeah, he's like, yeah, we should be able to. Um, but yeah, the other guy was like, nah, it doesn't make sense. So I do
Yeah,
think
of
as well,
course,
it
because
depends on the
it's
person.
tough. Yeah,
Yeah.
and this is the point exactly. And this is why I'm asking you, because you've made this experience, you've gone through this whole story,
Yeah.
and for a lot of people, it's unthinkable. For a lot of people, they say, I cannot do this. I cannot question this. How can I question a God? And this is so pumped into them that for them it's impossible to jump out of this.
Mm. Yeah, the outside of test of faith is a lot of people can't do it.
And that's why I admire everyone who does. Now, I cannot talk here because I've never been religious. I've never believed. I've never been into this crowd. So I don't know what it takes. So I just hear what other people are telling me and what they have told me over the years, because I had a lot of colleagues who still had to, what you were saying. They're still saying, yeah, well, I'm still a Muslim. I still go to the mosque on a Friday, but I don't really practice outside of that. So they don't pray at home. They don't fast over Ramadan. They
Mm.
just put up the pretenses,
Yeah.
just to stay in the loop.
Yeah, I was doing it. I was a performative Muslim for a long time.
That's a good
Uh,
one.
Yeah. The thing is, I think a lot of people are. There was a study done by the in the UK done by the no, sorry, it was reported by the Secular Society, but it was a previous study done on social attitudes, I think, from a few years ago in the UK, and one of the questions was asking about whether you still have the same religion that you were brought up with. And even though it only pointed out that 7% of Muslims said that they'd left their religion, I actually think the true figure was a lot higher, because you look at the stats in other countries and they're much higher. And I think there's a lot of pressure for people not to, come out as an ex-Muslim, so to speak. But even
yeah.
if you keep that 7%, I mean, that still works out as hundreds of thousands of ex-Muslims in the country, bearing in mind that there's something like 4 million here. So you're talking about there's probably hundreds of thousands of people who could be in your boat. And the funny thing is, the Secular Society, they had some interviews with particular Muslims who'd had a hard time leaving the religion, kind of
Mm.
abuse in the families and stuff like that. But so often the same story kept coming up. I thought I was alone. I thought I was the only one, because there is
Yeah.
such a taboo around it. And it's only when you reach out you suddenly realize actually there is a lot more people. When you see like ex-Muslim forums and stuff, and there could be like 3 people on your street who are also ex-Muslims that you don't even know about. So I think that's why it's
Yeah.
important to kind of plug into that, so you realize it's not just me. I'm not crazy. It's
Well,
actually a lot of
well,
people.
like a slight tangent. I actually, until I was probably like 18 or older, maybe, I didn't know what there was an atheist. Like, I just thought people were religious and that's it. And they just had different religions. I didn't know there were people who just took no position, or that
No,
was
it's
that
really
was
common.
very, Yeah.
It's common because I remember when there was a period where, for a few years where I was arguing with, or debating and discussing with so many different Muslims, and you wouldn't believe the number of times when I came across Muslims who would just literally say things like, "Oh, I'm used to discussing things with Christians. I don't know how to talk to atheists because I didn't really think anyone did believe in God." So again, you're not alone. I think there are quite a lot of Muslims and also ex-Muslims, who sort of have that experience. So.
Mm.
Yeah, it's which why it's good is why it's good to talk about this and kind of have this out there, because there's probably going to be some ex-Muslims listening to this thinking, yeah, Jesus, that was my experience as well. No, we won't be saying Jesus, but they'll say, yeah, that was my experience too. So yeah, it's very interesting. Oh, we got another question here in this.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, if people want to message in your Discord after, they can also do that. I'll probably reply there as well if they want.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we might even go over for a little chat if anyone wants to. But yeah, Rising Damp says, "Hi Mo, do your family know you've left the faith, and if so, what was their reaction?"
Oh yeah, I think this is what I was talking about yesterday, wasn't it? So basically, in a nutshell, they don't, but it's for other reasons, and I'll talk about that now. So pretty much I do drink in front of them. I do all the other things, I have a partner without marriage and stuff like that. They know about, right? So for me, it's in that sense, it's okay. So basically from their perspective, they just think he's just a bad Muslim. But he'll go to heaven eventually. So that's their thinking. And so like I understand this is the hardest part of being a Muslim is or leaving Islam is like your family. And I think I have to say I'm very lucky that like my family, even if I did tell them, they wouldn't disown me or anything, they'd still love me. But the problem is if I told them, my mom's and dad's heart would be broken, to know that their son is going to hell. That's why I haven't done it. So it's not necessarily to do with them shunning me, but it's more about, so I don't want to hurt them.
Yeah, and to be fair, look, I mean that's probably coming from a nice place from your parents. It's not like they're genuinely worried for you because they've got this indoctrination. They think that you're going to burn in hell or something, and
Yeah.
so it's not like, I mean, it can be easy to criticize families, but if you truly believe in this health stuff, then it will it is going to have that kind of impact. So I can understand your reticence to expose them to that kind of emotional pain. So it's fair enough.
Yeah.
Just
But
comment from Izzy. I prayed for 4 years before I decided enough was enough, and it just didn't work. Yeah.
wow.
Well, this whole
Patient.
praying, I don't know if you know the Iran study, when they went and they questioned Muslims in Iran, and 3/4 said they would not accept Islam as a state form. 2/3 say they're not really praying regularly. And even more than half said they're not even fasting like the full program that you should during Ramadan. Then an Islamic society in Germany went and said, "We don't believe that this study is true. We don't believe that this is a valid study." They repeated this in Germany with Muslims living in Germany, and they got the same numbers. So
Yeah.
even when Muslims leave the countries, which normally makes them more pious and more sort of entrenched, no, they're not. They're not praying. They're not fasting. They're not doing all the things that you're supposed to do as a Muslim. So I think in general, society is moving away from the old concept of the traditional 7th century Islam and the sort of the rituals around Islam that people are used to having and had for the last 1,000 years. So I think it's quite common nowadays that people are starting to question this.
Yeah. I think that's a good point. And like I said, a lot of the people I know who are still Muslims, they drink a lot, they do all the things you shouldn't be
There
doing.
you go, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
But it's because they're in a
And
Western
like you're saying,
country,
they're
which
not
is the
good
irony.
Muslims, but this is how it starts, exactly.
Yeah. Well, I just think like being able to do it because you're in a Western country, whereas if you're in another country, like an Islamic country, you just wouldn't be able to do it freely. I mean, they still do, but just way less easily.
Yeah, but it's funny. I remember, you talking about being in a Muslim country. I mean, I remember when I went to Egypt. It's good 10, 12 years ago now, and it was funny because like some of the Muslim shops, obviously they can't sell alcohol, but they see like a tourist and stuff, and it's like, oh, don't worry, sit down here, have a smoke, have a coffee, and we'll nip down the Christian shop and buy you some beers that you have. So, So it's kind of like I think it's a bit looser than people realize, even in some Muslim majority countries. And then also when you look at the stats for people who have left, I mean, you've got that one from Saudi Arabia, which was what was it, 24% of Saudi Arabians in a poll, I think this was about 10 years ago, said that they were no longer Muslim, and I think it was 30-something% in Turkey as well. And so, I mean, this is why I think the numbers in Britain are massively like underestimating the true number of experts.
And massively wrong.
You can look at, and I think that is just a social pressure.
I was just going to say, how do you think they could change the results? Like, how could they do a test that would just bring it out? I mean, would it be just more anonymous?
You can't. Yeah. They will just jipper them. They will just make them up. They will just say, well, in our masjid we have 160 people, and they're all devout Muslims, and they come every Friday, and we know that they're always praying because blah blah blah. They just make it up.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, but that's like when you get all the claims about how many people are converting to Islam as well. It's just like you look at the state of the shahadas that these Dawah guys put up on their channels, and it can literally just be someone walking down the street past their Dawah stand, and they'll give them a little bit of spiel saying, "Oh, you're already a Muslim anyway because you sort of believe in God and you sort of believe in the prophets." So if you just take a quick shahada, then you can be on your way. And almost out of witness, they're like, yeah, all right then. I mean, I've seen it, especially with Sheikh Uthman in America does this all the time. And yet he's probably ticking that off like, oh yeah, that's 5 more today. It's like, is that really a legitimate conversion? You think that guy has suddenly gone into the mosque? No, he's probably gone down a pub after this. So,
and then if he wanted to leave, if that person wanted to leave, it would require him to study Arabic. He would have to go to the top university. And still,
and
even
he gets
then,
killed on top of it.
Yeah, exactly. So you just can't leave. That was like for me, like speaking Arabic, it was just like I had friends who were telling me I was wrong, but I speak Arabic, and it's like, well, I'm just telling you that's not what the Quran says, you know. So it was actually useful to have that on my side.
Paul in the chat says, just turn up to your parents drunk, shouting there's loads of mistakes in the Quran. Yeah, I mean that would do it, wouldn't it? I mean that's really.
Oh my god.
And Rising Damp says, it's fascinating to me that your family accept your liberal lifestyle.
Well, I was just going to say like I was saying to you yesterday, Drastic, like I think my dad started off with like super Salafi, like I went to Sunday school, I went to Arabic school, like all these things I had to do every Sunday. I can't, like years and years, like most of my early life, was doing that. He used to take me to his friends, and I was like 6 years old, and I could recite surahs from the Quran, like top of my head, long ones as well. And he would be like, I bet you he can read this surah. And then they'd be like, no, he can't. And then, I would do it and they'd be impressed. But yeah, so now though, I think he's been like, because of the internet, he's been reading and like actually looking up hadith, where before you'd have to actually get a volume 3 of Sahih Bukhari and then you'd be able to read it. But now you just go on the internet, everything is there. And then I used to see him go on the internet and looking up stuff, and so he's reading it, and he's obviously maybe like realized the doubts. And so, like I said to you, now he's more of a like a Sufi or something. Like he honestly, love is God, God is love. I asked him the other day, what would you say to someone? What do you think happens to someone who does everything like a Muslim, but they just don't believe in God? Do you think they go to heaven? And he just said, yeah, I think they go to heaven. And I'm just like, you would never have said that 20 years ago.
That's really nice, and I do remember obviously you saying that yesterday to me, and I thought that is a really nice sign though, that shows that I think even when you are brought up with like a really harsh interpretation of Islam, sometimes I don't know how to describe it, your kind of better human impulses can still come out and kind of think, you know what, I will kind of soften over the years, and even if you're not ready to say, like, I don't believe this, you're going to adopt a more holistic point of view where, I don't think everyone's going to burn in hell, because that doesn't actually sound very nice. And so it's kind of, it's interesting to hear that, especially as we always try and point out here, as much as I'm an extremely harsh critic of Islam and of the Dawah guys, I'm never going to treat Muslims as a monolith. I'll always do the not, because I think it is important, because you do have people like your dad who has obviously gone on a journey. Yes, he's still a Muslim, but he is not the same as someone like Mohammed Hijab, who's going around, you know, instigating and inciting and kind of spreading it. You know, your dad sounds like a pretty nice guy. So I think it is important we highlight there is variation in the Muslim community, and let's not be, you know, just kind of demonizing everybody. So
yeah.
Oh, someone else. What was that? I think we did that one. Oh, no. Let's see. Most of the Muslims I know will observe Ramadan, but the rest of the year it's whiskey and pot. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, I remember when I was a teenager, there was this Egyptian guy that I used to work with, yeah, he was going on. Oh yeah, you know, I'm a strong Muslim, and then he was smoking weed with us. So I was just like, okay, yeah. So Muslims are morally better than Islam. Yeah, well, look, this is something that I've always said as well, you know, and stops too is, you know, most Muslims are better than their God. And I would say that about a lot of religious people. I think most people will kind of reinterpret things because they do have a better sense of morality than just reading the literal text. And so I think that's their good humanity coming through. There are flavors of Muslim, but there's only one Islam. Yeah, I mean, even there, I would say maybe that's a bit harsh. I mean, I think there is room for interpretation, not much. I mean, in my view, but I think there are better and worse ways you can interpret these things. I wouldn't say it's that monolithic. I understand the point you're trying to make there, but yeah,
there's some things that are like pretty set in stone, right? But
yeah, there are. I think this is one of the reasons also why I'm a harsher critic of Islam than other religions, because there seems to be less wiggle room in terms of taking out the bad bits with Islam than, say, Christianity and stuff like that. Not that you don't get your hardcore fundamentalist Christians, but I think this whole, you know, the whole thing of like divinely inspired rather than literally written by God, that does a lot of good work to be able to kind of wriggle out the bad bits and things like that. Whereas it's
you
Islam as a
automatically
whole
can't question it.
You've got the same in Islam. Muslims can't even agree whether the Quran is something that was created by a god or is uncreated. So there's a huge discussion about this.
Wow. Was it Yasser Qadi knows that very well.
He's the one who's really chucking oil in the fire here. Instead of
Right. Well, look. I mean, this has been really fascinating. To be honest, I could spend the rest of the episode just talking about this because it's really fun. Then I'll get accused of clickbait because of the title of this video. So I think we should probably, unless there's any other bits that you wanted to add, Mo, or if there's any other questions in the chat, anyone wants to put a question for Mo, we'll kind of move on to the video. So I'll give everyone 1 minute. Mo, is there anything else that you wanted to add that we kind of haven't touched on?
Not for now, no. Thanks. That was really good to get out my chest as well.
Yeah, well, as I say, I mean, you know, we've been talking nearly half an hour now, so I think, and yeah, I hope that's been kind of good experience for you as it has been for us. But you know, if you want to come on at another time and talk some more details, then feel free to. But Rising Damp says thanks for sharing, Mo. Yeah, absolutely. It's
talking of Rising Damp. Oh my God, I have the issue right now. But yeah, thanks.
Oh, what was that from the ex-Muslim that really spoke to you? What you asking there, dude?
I think he means like channels and yeah. Am I allowed to promote other channels? I mean,
yeah. Go ahead.
Well, not so much nowadays, but Apostate Prophet was a big one because of his his big personality and like he just used to take the absolute piss. But yeah, people like was it Apostate Aladdin? He's pretty good. This channel, the Gin and Tonic Show. Yeah.
Of course, us. I mean, we are obviously top of the tree in terms of our quality. But
yeah.
We'll
how about the guys
more
from the other show?
than anyone else?
The guys from the other show, do they still do this stuff? Like Atheismo and all them lot?
No. I mean, Atheismo's long gone. I mean, Stops is the one through line through the entire history of the show. But most of us, the old guys, have moved on. And in fact, Klingshaw, one of the original co-hosts, was he's gone full Islamophilia in his academic study. So he's completely repudiated the show and thinks we're all evil. But yeah, apart from that,
Yeah, but hang on,
Oh,
but not because he's a Muslim or something. No, because he sees himself as an academic, and he sees us as kind of a lower form of non or anti apologists, and he calls us Islamophobes because he wants to distance himself from the lower class critics because he is now an academic because he got his PhD.
he's royalty now.
Ah,
Yeah.
oh
Oh,
no.
Yeah,
he
that's a
says,
good one. You have
has
to
Mo
call him
tried
sir.
bacon yet? Have you tried bacon yet? Because that's apparently a litmus test for an
Ah,
Xmas.
it took me ages. Honestly, that was probably the last thing. I was drinking, doing everything, but bacon was the last thing. But no, I do love bacon. Yeah, I have pork all the time. So
I mean, it's
a good pork
almost worth
sausage.
eating just for now.
Yeah,
You guys are surely the best. Of course we are. Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay.
agreed.
That was a great conversation. Thanks so much for sharing, Mo. Shall we move on
No
to
problem.
Mr. Mohammed Hijab? I think we should at
Yeah.
this point because it has been half an hour. So let's get
Yeah,
this
let's
up.
let's start the entertainment part of the program.
Yeah, we've had the education and the intellect. Now we're going to have the anti-intellect, which is Mohammed Hijab. Now, as I say, this is his response to the whole murder of Charlie Kirk thing that happened earlier this week. For the the two people out there in the world that don't know about this, basically, Charlie Kirk is kind of a conservative sort of influencer, YouTuber. He's mates with Donald Trump, all this kind of stuff, and he does all these debates and things. And he was killed earlier this week while doing questions at this big college campus event. Now, I'm not going to, as I say, I don't want to get into all the partisan politics and stuff on that. There's just enough of that hysteria that's been going on this week. But I am interested in Mohammed Hijab's exploitation of this because, as far as I'm concerned, he's sort of indirectly trying to push his Islamist agenda with this. And so, therefore, just completely not learning anything from this situation, as far as I'm concerned. So, we're going to play this. People in the chat, when I play this video, it is lower than you'd usually expect from a Mohammed Hijab video because he's sitting in his car doing it. So if the volume is low, let me know. I mean, to be honest, I don't think I can really turn it up much. So if it is low, maybe you just have to turn up your your volume, and we'll hope for the best on this. But anyway, let's see Mohammed Hijab's perspective and enjoy the idiocy.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you guys doing? It's your brother MH with another video in the car. It's been a long time since we've done one of these, but sometimes they can come out more natural anyway because it's less performative, I can be a little bit more intimate with you and we can talk, me and you, on these very important issues that are on the news.
It does get louder than this, but I just want to point out, I don't think anyone wants to be intimate with Mohammed Hijab or sit in his car, to be honest. And I just think it's funny as well because he says like, oh yeah, it's less performative doing this in the car. It's like, well, you choose how performative you want to be in all your other videos. So I mean, it's not like you have to be screaming and shouting like I'm an idiot every time. But um, but yeah, it's I just thought it's worth pointing that out. Like you choose
Fantastic. I
your
was
own.
I was jumping. I was jumping up and down just now because that means he acknowledges that usually it's just a performance.
Yes, exactly. Well,
There you go.
I remember the live stream that you went on with him and a whole bunch of other Muslims when they
That was exactly,
used
that was a
what is it?
performance. Yeah.
But he actually said, "Well, I am an actor." He basically admitted it on the live stream that he does all this bullshit just to, for the theatrics and the clicks and everything. So,
Yeah.
not to say that he is a Salafist. He is definitely a hardcore Muslim, but all the screaming and shouting and the oh, I'm going to beat you up
Exactly. That's
kind
the
of
point. Yeah.
implications. Yeah, it's all just stupid. But anyways, let's carry on.
Of course, what's been on the news is the death of Charlie Kirk, an individual who I've actually made a video about in the past and challenged to a debate and all these kind of things because he was a political adversary.
Yeah, sorry. It's a real shock that Mohammed Hijab challenged this guy to a debate, isn't it? I mean, he's literally tried to debate every public figure on YouTube. He does his rage baiting thing. So it's like, is anyone surprised? I mean, he only does it for attention, but
I think I was
yeah.
also surprised that Charlie Kirk never answered it.
Well, yeah, exactly. This is the funny thing because he's got such an ego, Mohammed Hijab, but like most of the people just ignore him because
Yeah.
outside of like Muslim circles, he's not really that well known. So,
Especially vis-a-vis the issue relating to Gaza and the genocide. But the senseless murder of this man, probably by some crazed lunatic, far-left lunatic, has left a lot of people from both sides of the so-called political spectrum speaking in different ways. I mean, some people have become much more emboldened from the right wing, and some people have become the opposite from the left. And then you have Muslims saying whatever they're saying. I haven't really had the time to look at all the responses, but I wanted to approach this in a completely different way. And that is to tackle this notion, this false notion, in my view, of freedom of speech and expression. Now,
right, so I'm going to pause it there because notice how, I mean, he's exploiting this situation basically to push indirectly to say, well, you know what, we kind of need blasphemy laws, don't we? Because this is pretty much where he's going with this. It's like I would say for most people, whether you like Charlie Kirk, or you despise him, or you were indifferent to him, or whatever, most people don't take for the lesson that you shouldn't be allowed to talk, you shouldn't be engaged in public conversations, kind of thing, even if you think whatever about what he said. But for Mohammed Hijab, it's kind of like, we need to crack down on this false thing called freedom of speech. It's like, could you have learned the wrong lesson harder than this?
Yeah.
Anyways,
what do I mean it's a false notion? I think it's a phantom notion. I think it's a useful fiction. I think it's a Western mythology. The way it's being presented, the way it's used as a slogan, okay, I think it's actually a fiction. Let me explain why, right?
Yeah, who uses free speech as a slogan? I mean, it's a right that people talk about, and an extremely important one for anyone who would, believe in democracy and basic human rights and the ability to think clearly and critically. So, not surprised that Mohammed Hijab would be against that. But the way he talks about fiction, I mean, what a stupid thing to say. Sorry, you were going to cut him on.
No, I was just going to say, it seems like to be a dawah man, you have to pass the test. You basically have to just get the meanings of words wrong. I mean, like the way he's been describing freedom of speech so far is it's just not what it is. Like, I mean, I'm sure he'll go into it more, but for now, it's just, yeah.
Yeah, he gets it more wrong as we go along. So,
well, I think every single dawah-gandist has to object to the freedom of speech. And they all use the same mantra that freedom of speech is not actually freedom of speech because it is restricted, because you're not allowed to shout this and blah, 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 because they don't understand freedom of speech. It just means that you're allowed to say something that is not going to get you in conflict with the law. And that's all that it means. But people don't understand that, and especially dawah-gandists. I don't know why they have this sort of skewed understanding that it means that you can blaspheme Muhammad or something, and this is what they want curbed.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. I think ultimately that is all he really cares about, is the idea that anyone can critique his religion or even mock his religion. That's the only thing I think he's thinking about in this, as well as potentially his own personal safety as well, because obviously he is a public figure, not anywhere near kind of Charlie Kirk's fame, but I think it's probably he's slightly worried about himself now as well. But I think it's mainly the blasphemy thing.
Yeah.
When people come out and say we want freedom of speech and expression, what are they actually calling for? They are calling, and this is the only thing they can call for, the government to remove limitations on things like hate speech, on things like racism, or whatever it may be, that prevents or otherwise inhibits an individual from saying whatever they want to say, so long as they don't want to harm anyone else.
Right, I mean, that's the dumbest fucking take, really, because first of all, right, if you take America where this has happened, right, they don't, as far as I understand, they don't have anything like hate speech laws. You've got the First Amendment there to protect your rights. Now, so it's not a matter of, you already have the right to be as offensive, as insulting as you want, and you are legally protected. Now, it doesn't mean that there can't be social consequences and stuff like that, but no, so I don't really get what he's saying there. Now, I will acknowledge in say Britain, it's a little different, and we do have kind of stuff like that. And for me, I'm look. People are going to disagree on this, but as far as I'm concerned, I think America has it better in terms of like I hate racist language and all this bigotry and stuff like that, homophobia and misogyny, but I don't think someone should go to jail for saying it. I don't, and I certainly don't think someone should be killed for saying it.
Yeah.
Now, not everyone might agree with that, but I think as long as you're not inciting violence, I think really you should have as wide a berth as possible for freedom of speech, and it has to be for things that you really despise. Otherwise, it doesn't really mean much. I mean, I wouldn't want Mohammed Hijab's freedom to say all the horrible shit that he does taken away unless he's inciting, which I think actually he crosses the line. Well, he gets close to that line a lot, in my view. But yeah, so I don't know. I don't know where it's coming from. Like people like want to defend free speech just to insult people or something. No, that's obviously like an upper limit. But he's completely getting it wrong, or just he's just like attributing it to his own worry about, oh, you're going to say something that upsets me as a Muslim kind of thing, and that shouldn't be right.
And the thing is that we have defamation laws, okay, and there is a limit, all right. So I don't understand what he's on about. The thing is, everyone has the right to have their feelings I don't know, indented or whatever, in some insulted. You can insult your feelings, and everybody can feel insulted just because they're feeling it. But that's not going to stop anyone. And this is exactly what he expects. I'm not allowed to insult his feelings. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also the defamation case that he's been going through, how he lost that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
He's you know what, I didn't even think about that, Mo, but this probably is on his mind as well. He was thinking, oh man, if we tightened up the had less free speech, then maybe I would have won
Oh
my
yeah,
frivolous lawsuit.
that's a good point. I didn't think of that, but yeah.
Let's just play a bit more of this.
Social liberal sense. And that's, of course, the harm principle. That's what they're calling for. But in so doing, they're assuming, actually, the presupposition is that freedom of speech and expression is the sole property, in a sense, or it's exercised only by the government.
No, that's a load of bollocks. It's not that it's exercised by the government. The government is supposed to be the guarantor and sort of neutral arbiter of freedom of speech. I mean, how close you get that into reality is obviously a question, but that's the ideal. It's supposed to be there to protect everybody's right, in a legal sense, and to make sure everyone's got kind of an equal access to that. So again, it's
Exactly.
he just seems to get everything
Again,
wrong.
like I said,
But the
to be a
government is
DAO,
not
man.
there to. Yeah, but the government is not there to stop you from hurting somebody else's feelings. This is the whole point.
Yeah. And also, like I said, to be a DAO, man, you just got to get it wrong. Just get every definition wrong. Don't Google what freedom of speech actually is.
Yeah.
Freedom of speech and expression. I don't want anyone in what I'm about to say to misinterpret what I'm going to say, because obviously I'm a Muslim guy. People are going to say this guy is saying this, that, and the other. Freedom of expression is not, something the government controls. Because the assumption here is that the government has all the power in a given society, where we...
Right, again, this is just so stupid. No one is saying that it's something that the government controls, or that it's it's only within the sort of purview of the government. But they are supposed to represent the citizens and the citizens' way of being able to kind of enforce it. So it's not like the government in a democratic society is supposed to be saying, "Oh, right, we're sort of handing out freedom of speech." No, I mean, it's the legal system is there to protect your freedom of speech, and the government is again, it's supposed to be administrators. He seems to almost be talking as if like they're handing freedom of speech out in little parcels to people. It's just really sort of dumb, this take.
know that actually there are different parties that have different power. There are different stakeholders of power. And when I was doing my undergraduate in politics, this is actually the first thing I learned. I'd done an undergraduate, and I can remember the first year, and I think it was the first lesson, where they taught us what is referred to as like theories of power. And I remember Robert Dahl, his definition is, the power is person A's ability to get person B to do what person B would otherwise not do. And then they contrasted this with like Backrats and Barretts and other individuals who actually said, no, power is more distributed. And most analysts said, actually, this is a more proper definition of what power is. Obviously, Michael Foucault took it to another level, but we're not going there now. In terms of power, it's more distributed, etc. And I think there is an element of truth in that proposition, that actually power is more distributed in society. Now, why am I mentioning this and linking it to the fact that freedom of speech and expression is in fact, okay, a phantom and fictionalized concept that the white man of the West has made almost a religious concept, is because, look.
Yeah, I'm going to stop him there. Obviously, he's going to needlessly racialize this because apparently only white people can believe in freedom of speech. So if you happen to be from a different background, it's just indoctrination from white people to think that you should have the right to say what you think, according to Mohammed Hijab. So that was kind of stupid. But he's also like, he's going on about like as if, these power relationship stuff. And I know where he's going with this because I've seen this recently. He's basically trying to touch on the fact that, yeah, okay, there are people in society who can just decide to do, like, say, what happened to Charlie Kirk. They can take away that right by just overriding the law. It's like, yeah, so the fuck what? That's true of everything in society. You can always find a criminal element who is going to say, well, yeah, I'm just going to go rob your house. Does that mean that suddenly the right to not have your stuff stolen is a myth? No, it just means that, yes, there are other people who can attempt to break those laws. But that is the whole point of why you have a legal system and a government and everything, so that you can either have law enforcement try and stop it and get your stuff back, or you can have, you can punish these people and kind of use that as an incentive for people to follow the law to try and guarantee those rights. Yes, just because someone can break it doesn't mean it's a fiction that you have that right. And that shows, because yes, although this killing was horrible, and any political killing, and it's not been the only one, there's been many over the years and the decades, but the point is that most of the time, I mean, in America you've got 350 million people. They are going to be saying what they want, and they're not getting killed for it, because it's more than just the legal thing, it's the cultural thing, that most people do accept that this is an extremely important right. And so therefore, as much as you have the government there to kind of be the guarantor of it, it's become part of the culture, and you kind of almost, you're agreeing in part of that social contract. So yes, there's always going to be people who will break it. That doesn't mean that it's a fiction, because most people, the vast majority of people, do enjoy that freedom in America. Sorry, that was a long rant, but it just, this is where you go in this argument, and it's just stupid. Again, it's just like to say, because if somebody breaks that, it means it doesn't exist. Well, no. I mean, you may as well say that about the Islamic legal system. Well, okay, some people still in the Islamic State, some people will still blaspheme. Does that mean that your lack of a right not to blaspheme is now suddenly null and void? No, it just means that some people will go against it as a society. But it's just a fucking stupid thing to say.
Is he trying to? Sorry, is he trying to maybe do like some sort of fallacy where, like, I mean, I don't know. Is he trying to offer an alternative, or is he saying just get rid of the whole damn thing? Like,
we'll get to that. We'll get to that in the video. But yeah, I'm glad you kind of see that, because it is kind of where he's going, or where, I mean, I'm not sure. I can't remember how directly he says this, but this is what I infer from this video anyway. But
he's always assigning blame. He always mentions two things. One is the white man, and the other thing is colonialism. Those are the two things he always goes to.
Colonialism, yeah, because
the secret powers.
But again, it's also that stupid racialization. I mean, it really is. I mean, he is the racist saying this kind of crap, because not only is it just stupidly pointing out, oh, it's the white man's thing, but that is really insulting to anyone who's not white, to think that they wouldn't want that freedom, or wouldn't understand that freedom, or understand it as a good idea on its own merit. White people brainwashing you or something. I mean, he does this in so many fucking videos. It's like, oh, that's the colonialism of the white man to believe in freedom.
Exactly, yeah.
Fucking idiot. It's so insulting to people.
Look, power in any given society is in the hands of the government, yes, but also in the hands of multinationals, or of the hands of bankers. in the hands of the gangsters. You don't want to admit this, especially in a place like America, especially where you're saying you can have gun rights and stuff, and actually Kirk was one of those people. There is...
Yeah, but again, so like who's denying that there aren't other groups of people in society that have power? You're not saying anything new here, but that doesn't negate the fact that people do have that right, and it's not just a legal fiction, because it's something that people experience throughout most of their life. I mean, you live in America. I mean, even with these these horrible killings and stuff that have happened, 99.99999% of people are going to go through their life being able to exercise that right. So to say it's a fiction because some people break the law, again, it's just fucking stupid.
A clip of him saying something to the effect of, and I'm not going to play it because people are going to misinterpret, that if people have to die for this, it's fine, so, which is quite ironic, actually, considering that he died for it himself. Having said that, now, if power is distributed in that way that we've just discussed, then freedom of speech is not a concept that can be actualized or realized or materialized in any meaningful sense in society.
That's absolute horseshit. And I tell you why we know this is horseshit as well, because take a look at America in terms of the freedom of speech most people experience, and then take a look at a country where, like Afghanistan, and their very different system. And are you honestly going to tell me you're going to have no direct experience of a difference between how much freedom you've got to speak in those two countries? Of course you are. You're going to have a direct experience of that difference in freedom. So for him to say something like that is just demonstrably wrong.
It's
because
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, it just seems like he's trying to say like imagine you're a boxer and you're in a boxing match. You got hit once, you might as well just get hit. Just let the other guy hit you the rest of the match,
you can't deflect any other punches now. You should just give up, throw in the towel.
Yeah, it's but this system works, and it may not work all the time, but it doesn't mean you have to throw it out.
I have to say, sorry, just another thing. I've noticed in the chat there seems to be an argument about who wants to have Mohammed Hijab leased in their country, which I think is really funny. So, anyways.
Always be a group of people who decide not to obey the law. That their rational analysis, their cost-benefit analysis is that actually I'm going to go against the law, and in order to delete the influence, let's say, of my political adversary, we're not going to play by the rules of the social contract, and we're going to a more anarchical position, okay? There's always going to be a group of people that consider that to be a favorable option for them and or their cause. And therefore, freedom of speech, if you have societies especially if you have societies with mega populations like America, is something which actually cannot be realized in the full sense. Now,
you see how he modified that in the full sense? Yes, you occasionally get horrible things like this happen where somebody loses that right, or they suffer consequences by sort of expressing that right, but everybody else is still experiencing the freedom. So the slippery language he uses there, now he's saying in a full sense. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be 100%. We're not living in a perfect world, but just because that 0.001%, that doesn't mean you just jack the whole thing in and say, oh, can I have Sharia instead, please? Because that'll be a much better system. Which is sort of where he's going with this. And it's just so stupid as an argument. Sorry, I keep saying that. I'll have to come up with some new words. But it's, say this in the mirror before you come up with this argument and see if it actually works. Because putting this out, it just makes you look like a moron.
Having known this point, and it's very important that you understand that the reason why this is the case is because the government does not control, is not the sole administrator or the sole arbiter of freedom of speech in the society. If you understand this, and it's actually multiple sources and actually it comes from different stakeholders and whatever, if you understand this point, then you realize that sloganeering on behalf of freedom of speech, now we need freedom of speech and this and that and the other, is almost a fruitless exercise.
Yeah, bullshit is it? Bullshit is it almost fruitless? Because as I say, for the reasons we've already discussed. But again, we could turn this argument on him and say, well, look, Mohammed, only 20% of the world are Muslim. So that means 80% are not going to be, at least 80%, because most Muslims, to be fair, don't seem to want to live by Islamic law. But look, you've got the vast majority of the human population don't want to live by the system that you want to live by. So just give it up, mate. Just give it up. There's no point in sloganeering about Islam because most people aren't Muslims. I mean, would he accept that as an argument? Of course he fucking wouldn't. So
No.
Because you're asking the government to do something which is not in their power. This guy, Charlie Kirk, was connected to Donald Trump. He was basically, with all due respect, his mascot. Every day he was speaking about him. Every day he was like, I'd see a tweet that he was saying things about this and that and the other. He was a close friend of Donald Trump. Yet Donald Trump, who had recently been attempted assassination has been attempted on him, Donald Trump himself, couldn't protect him. Despite the fact that he was
I'm sorry, what? I mean, so is Donald Trump supposed to be Charlie Kirk's bodyguard now or something? What the fuck does that mean? He wasn't able to protect him. Or does he think that Charlie Kirk is supposed to have presidential security now or something? Again, it's like, so what if he was friends with Donald Trump? That doesn't.
He wasn't.
He was a useful idiot. Understand. Sorry, go ahead, Stops.
He was a useful idiot. Look what Trump is doing now. He stopped talking about him immediately. He doesn't care anymore. He's gone. Okay, well, I'll have to find another idiot.
Yeah, did you see the video?
I don't even mean the politics of it, but just like the point that Mohammed Hijab is saying, he somehow thinks that if you're friends with the president, that means that you should be immortal. Nobody should be able to kill you, basically. And therefore...
Yeah, but he wasn't even friends. This is the point I'm trying to make. He was just another tool that Trump was using, throwing out there, happy that somebody was doing his bidding, but he didn't care about the person. He wouldn't have given him security or anything.
I'm sure that's the case. But again, like Mohammed Hijab seems to think that if you've got political connections, that means that you should therefore...
Sacrosanct, yeah.
Therefore, if you get taken out, if you get killed by someone, that means that the concept of freedom of speech is now flawed. I mean, how does that follow as an argument? It's absolutely ridiculous.
So he's claiming, right, that the security measures that would be applied to a presidential, public speaking event would match that of just some random famous conservative pundit.
Yeah, exactly. It just makes no sense.
I think he's in this car because he's like hotboxing himself. Like I generally think.
Environment that was similar to the one that Donald Trump was in before he got shot. But Donald Trump didn't take the precaution and say, okay, this guy's a firm supporter of me. Therefore, someone who would want to kill me would also want to kill him, because he's a very influential person. He mentioned it himself, very influential to the youth.
Yeah, but that is also a dumb take as well. I mean, there's been 4 US presidents have been killed in the history of the country. And there's been assassination attempts on, I think, at least 3 or 4 others. Now, so obviously, just the position, it doesn't matter who you are. I mean, presidents from all different backgrounds. You had Lincoln killed, you had Kennedy killed, you had McKinley killed, Reagan was targeted, Roosevelt was targeted. So it's all over the political spectrum. That's the point. That's because it's a powerful political position. And again, to go back to what you're saying about, it's like you would expect more targets to be on that position compared to just some influencer, regardless of how popular or how unpopular he was. So it's just, again, it's a stupid point to make. I don't know where he's going with this.
And so on. And if they hate me, then they hate him. The security was abysmal. He was, with all due respect, I mean, America really has to reassess how they're dealing with guns here. Like, you've got 330 million people in the country, or maybe more now. I don't know. I haven't looked at the population. And we're hearing it's an unsafe country. I wouldn't want to live in America. I'm sorry to say. It's an unsafe country.
Yeah, well, none of us want you to live here either, mate. And, we've all got our crosses to bear, unfortunately.
Especially not as an influencer. Especially not as an influencer that discusses politics and religion.
Yeah, see, now I think this is showing that he's shitting his pants a bit because he's worried now that he might get taken out. And which is quite funny because this man, like, says a lot of incendiary stuff himself. And so I think it might be slightly coming home to roost that, there are a lot of crazies out there who are willing to do this. So, is he worried about his own kind of head being on the block? But Sorry, it's a slight digression.
America becomes one of the most unsafe countries that you can imagine because you don't know who's carrying a gun. It's too much. Okay. So that's another issue. Donald Trump really should have protected his man a lot more than that. He should be blamed by the far right. He should be blamed because there was an attempted assassination on him, and he didn't even put the precautions in place for his major, supporters and so on and so forth. But that's something else.
Yeah, I mean, it's a completely stupid point, but I think we've already kind of covered this, so I'll just, we'll carry on.
Yeah.
What I'm saying to you is the following, is that if we as a society know, or as people know, that freedom of speech is a phantom and fictionalized, romanticized, idealized concept. It's a religious concept, really, because it's connected to classical liberalism in one way or another.
How does that make it a religious concept if it's attached to something which is inherently not religious? I mean, that's a really fucking stupid thing to say again. But of course,
he loves it.
But you know what he's like. If you say liberalism to him, that's just code word means non-Islamic. So that's what he really means. But at the same time, because many atheists are will consider themselves liberals or classical liberals or whatever, he's therefore got to claim it's just another religious thing. So yeah, it's just.
Yeah, it's like his way of.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, it's his way of like dismissing it, but the same way that some atheists will say, well, it's a religious thing, so there's no factual things about it. So it's the same thing he's trying to do.
Yeah,
by making it a religious thing, it's like he can just dismiss it, and so.
Absolutely.
Cheap shots.
And that mentioning it so much in slogan is actually a fruitless enterprise because there's so many different stakeholders of it and all the things that we just mentioned. If you know that, then what is it then? You should know that there is a limit to what you can and can't say or should and shouldn't say in terms of self-censorship. There should be a limit to that. Because if you know that, okay, well, if I say this about this group of people, I'm putting myself in danger. This is an advice to myself. Like me, by going out and speaking about Islam and the Gazan genocide and the Rohingya genocide and the Uyghur genocide, there are so many enemies.
Yeah, I mean, again, this sort of convenient list of genocides or what he considers genocides. It's funny how he didn't mention the Yazidis in there or the genocide in Sudan. You know what I mean? You're kind of avoiding the ones where the Muslims are responsible, but yeah, let's carry on.
He only knows those ones.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
To me, right, I understand that carries a risk. Okay, but especially when you talk about politics and religion, you understand that carries a risk. From our perspective as Muslims, we have this concept of martyrdom, which people, once again, they distort this concept, which is that if you die in this context, like someone shoots you or something, then you're a martyr. You actually are a martyr. The Prophet ﷺ said it himself that whoever dies protecting his wealth or self or his family, etc., he's a shaheed, he's a martyr. And so this idea for us is, that's what gives me comfort. Okay, that somewhat if I go out like that, it's fine, no problem. I mean, I get to the highest level of religious,
So, sorry, Andrew, but I was just going to say, so if I was a criminal drug lord and I died protecting my money, would I be a shaheed? Probably.
Yeah, I mean, that's the logic and just what he said there, wasn't it? So, yeah,
bad logic.
Ranking, okay. But what I'm trying to say to you is that there is a heavy taxation for all of us, influencers across the world, wherever your politics is and whatever your religion is, yeah, there's a heavy taxation for taking and agitating to a certain level.
Yeah, and you know all about agitating because you have been adjudicated by a high court judge as being an actual street agitator.
Exactly.
That is officially on the court records now. So, like, if you're now about to counsel people, to ease off on the rhetoric and stuff like that and calm things down. I mean, you're the last person who should be telling anybody about that. I mean, you go on the fucking streets and again, the court has judged you as someone who goes on the streets to try and stir up hatred between communities, who tries to stir up violence, whether that's with Hindus or with Jews or whoever else. So this is the last man who should be lecturing anyone if this is going to be oh, you know, calm down on a rhetoric kind of thing. I mean, you should look in the mirror, son.
The heavy taxation. If I go far enough, there's going to be people who want me dead. There are things I could say online that would make people want to shoot me and stab me. I've probably said those things already. But that's why.
Yeah, and he doesn't like really think about, you know, maybe you should reflect on that. But the funny thing is, like, even with all the agitation and shit that he does, as much as I mean, I do think he does almost get into that line where he is inciting violence. So I think, you know, if he does that, he should be punished for it. But, you know, he says all kinds of hateful things. Bear in mind, this man is advocating for a system where all three of us on this panel and many people who are listening to this would be executed. So, and he's not just advocating for that system. He's trying to encourage every single Muslim in the UK to support this change and work for this change. He does this on the streets. I mean, which is, I've made videos on my channel previously where I'm almost persuaded by the argument that preaching to have Islamic law take over the UK is inciting violence. I am almost convinced by that argument, because it just means if that was to happen, you advocate for a system that kills apostates, that kills gay people, that kills blasphemers, that kills atheists. I mean, it's a death sentence for a majority of the population, quite frankly. So, I mean, again, this man advocates this publicly, and he wants to talk about, you know, agitation and stuff like that and freedom of speech. Well, yeah, it's an amazing fucking hypocrisy.
Well, yeah, it's just because we can't. Sorry, yeah, go. It's fine.
No, go first.
No, I was just going to quickly say, yeah, so basically, just abandon freedom of speech and just don't go too far, because hurting my prophet makes me sad, basically. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, that is the underlying message fundamentally to this, as much as he, I'm not sure if he directly says it, but
the point is that people who shot at me were Muslims, simply because I am not a Muslim. So this is exactly this. So why is he whining about other people saying things and then getting shot by whatever, making him look as though he's the victim here?
I'm sure he would claim the people that shot you weren't real Muslims. Stops. That'd probably be the. They were probably Mossad agents in disguise or something. Yeah.
Do not hide behind this idea of freedom of speech. Freedom of speech, in your understanding, cannot. It's not just that it does not. It cannot exist.
Yeah, we've already proven that's wrong, but who fuck's hiding? Who's hiding behind anything? No, it is one of the foundations of democratic Western systems, is this idea of freedom of speech. No one's hiding behind it. What we're saying is that you shouldn't bow to people who try and take it away, which includes people like you. You advocate for a system that would strip that from us. And now, see, this is why I almost feel like it's kind of, you know, he's doing the thing of, oh, look what happens if you go too far, you're going to get killed. And he seems to almost support that message. It's like, learn from Charlie Kirk, pipe down, especially if you're going to talk about my religion. This really does seem to be the message.
Do you know what he's being? He's being a monafik, basically. He's been a hypocrite.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's been a hypocrite.
Because there's always going to be a group of people who are criminal and who would like to take the law in their own hands, and their cost-benefit analysis is always going to be that it's favorable for them to do so.
Yeah, and sorry, I'm just going to pause it again. Does anyone remember the video? Because which was, as far as I was concerned, almost direct incitement to violence, when he was basically saying, you don't think we have gangsters as Muslims? And he's kind of like,
I was just going to say.
He's doing that sort of same thing. It's sort of like this undercurrent of threatening behavior.
It's a threat, yeah.
It's not direct, but it's like this. It's like a veiled threat, basically, to say, we're gangsters, so don't step out of line. Well, fuck you, basically. Anyways, so we just got a little bit more. There's about 2 minutes of this left.
And so, what this thing about Charlie Kirk's murder has shown us is that even if you are connected to the political administration, the political elite, to Donald Trump, to the establishment, you cannot be safe. You cannot be, there is no safety. Okay, there's no safety. And if we know that, then at least what we should do is we can offer our disagreements with people that are political and religious adversaries or whatever it may be. But there has to be, we have to temper, or we have to be a bit careful not to go too far.
No.
Yeah, like when this guy was in Leicester, who was, he was being really careful not going too far when he was trying to essentially incite a riot between Muslims and Hindus. So much so that even the Muslims there told him to piss off and go back to London. This guy is going to say, be careful. I mean, what a fucking hypocrite. Or when he's on the streets of London, trying to agitate against Jewish people. I mean, oh, God.
Yeah, but I'm not
Like-
going to knuckle under. This is what he's asking me to do. He says, well, just shut up and take it. No,
Yeah.
I'm not going to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is like when it's like kind of reminds me of when you said about the gangsters thing. It's also when he tried to he was making threats to Alex O'Connor, and he essentially doxed him. He told him where he lived, and he said, there's people there, who will be very angry with what you said. So it just seems like a very good way to control free speech of an individual for criticizing Islam, basically.
Yeah, well, this is
as
why
long
I
as
think
he
this-
has free speech. So as long
Exactly,
as he
the
can say
irony.
what he wants,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
not against them. This is the whole point.
But this is
Yeah.
why I think there's two levels to this video, because on the one hand, he can sort of claim, oh no, I'm just saying, look, these terrible things happen, we should calm down the rhetoric. But I think the underlying message is basically, you better watch out if you feel like you can criticize things to upset people. Wink, wink. Don't have a go at Islam.
but the
This is
funny
what I
thing-
think the underlying message is.
He's doing the thing that he's describing. He's saying there's agitators. The government doesn't actually own free speech. It's actually his other people. He is those other people sometimes,
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah, and then not even the president can protect you.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's that. It is that message, isn't it? It's the underlying veiled threat, which, because he's not saying it directly, because he's sort of couching it in these terms, talking about, just be more respectful. It is trying to cover up what I think his real intention is with this video, and as we all do. Yeah. All right, let's just play the last little bit of this.
And not to create societal division, because this will be one of many murders, by the way, if we continue, if the far right growth continues, because the far right is inviting the far left now to respond.
I mean, I just have to say, you are the far right as far as I'm concerned, Mohammed Hijab. There is very little difference between you and the far right. And I'm talking about the things that he advocates for. The worst kind of Sharia state just has all the hallmarks of a fascist society. And I don't think that is hysterical rhetoric. I think it's actually, when you look at the details of it, it is that kind of authoritarianism. So, he keeps using terms like far right. Look in the mirror. Look in the mirror.
And it's going to become, it could even become a civil war in your country if it continues in the United States, for example. If this continues for many, many, many years, it could actually become somewhat of a mini civil war. The only way to stop that is to realize, okay, well, actually, we need to all respect one another. Don't go too far. The far right can't come out and speak the way that they're speaking against ethnics and against racial minorities and against religious minorities and Muslims.
There you go. There it is, right at the end there. That's the message, isn't it? You can't come out, and when he says the far right, he will consider probably anyone that critique. We're all far right to him, probably, because we're critiquing Islam. But he squeezes that in the end, doesn't he? Squeezes it in. You can't be coming out and having a go with religious minorities. You can't be saying anything about Muslims, and again, not like I'm not advocating, obviously, for like bigotry against Muslims or anything, but he's not concerned about it. He's concerned about the criticism of the religion. That is his key thing. Sorry, Mo, you want to say something?
I think I forgot, but it's all right.
Oh, sorry. I should.
No.
I didn't have to go on my rant. Sorry, it's just Mohammed Hijab brings the worst out of me.
But eventually, this is going to be very bad for everyone. Okay, the far left can't respond in that way as well. If this continues, it's going to be very bad for everyone. That's the lesson to learn from this. And another lesson is, if you want to speak about politics and religion, then know that this is the ultimate price that any of us can face at any time, and there is no protection from it with Allah's will. But as Muslims, the greatest protection is the idea of martyrdom itself, and that, to be honest, is a beautiful thing. Wassalamu alaikum, and I hope you understand that I'm not advocating for anything particularly.
Yeah. Of course you're not. Of course you're not advocating for anything particularly. Just a authoritarian Sharia state. Yeah, that's all you're advocating for. And be careful if you criticise Islam, because look what happened to Charlie Kirk. That's what you're advocating.
And he hasn't offered an alternative, because I was waiting for it. I was really waiting. I was like, maybe he's got this thing nobody's ever thought of.
Join
Sunni
Islam.
system. Yeah,
Don't join
well,
Islam. That's always the alternative. That is the only alternative, man. Come on now.
yeah,
I think
yeah.
that was it. Let me just.
I know people are going to be taking this out of context, but I don't care anyway. I've said what I've said. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yeah, that was basically it. So yeah, I don't think we were taking you out of context. I think we were reading the blatant subtext of what you were saying, which is
Yeah.
don't criticize my religion. You know, wink, wink. Look at what happened to Charlie Kirk. That is what I think is the underlying message to this. I mean, if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. But does anyone think that's a wrong interpretation? I mean, has
No.
Mohammed Hijab not proved himself to be this kind of character over the last decade?
Drastic. It's
Yeah.
very difficult, but I have to agree with you.
Yes. Okay. Well. All right. Let's get rid of Mohammed's face and right. Okay then. Summary. So yeah, I don't know. Does anyone want to kind of say anything more about Mohammed Hijab?
Well, it's
uh,
basically what I dreaded, which I knew was going to happen, that people are going to instrumentalize this whole thing with Kirk being shot, because it's such a it's so stupid. Okay, people. I mean, Kirk was not a nice person. Okay, he was really a despicable and whatever. But there is no way that you should kill a person like that. We should be better. We should have the basic decency today that we are able to use our intellect to challenge people like that and not use weapons the way that, you know, use the brain and not the club that we used to have over our shoulders. So, and now people come out and say, yeah, but you see, everybody is now trying to get their specific take, their specific perspective, and say, all right, I'm looking at this through the Muslim eyes, and because somebody criticizes Islam, it means that they are going to be killed by some idiot, and therefore don't do it. So we all need to temper down. Just don't criticize Islam, and also Islam shouldn't be so, I don't know, drastic. For the want of a better word. And that's it. And it's inevitable that people are going to do that. It doesn't make Islam better. It doesn't make apologists better. It doesn't help anyone to do a video like this.
no.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think Rising Damp kind of says it the best. Hijab's just using Kirk's death to score cheap political points. Yeah, and to
Yeah,
be, he's
exactly.
not the only one. I mean, the internet is full of this at the moment, which is why I'm not trying to make any political points about this. I'm not even going into what I think of Kirk or anything like that, because number one, he has to be shot, but number two, everyone and their dog is just milking this for that kind of thing, and I'm not interested in
Exactly.
playing these games. I just wanted to get the Dawa kind of position. And the other side of this is Ali Dawa has been making all these kind of conspiracy videos about how Mossad had Kirk killed and all this kind of stuff. And so, you know, really, it's just insane. But yeah, so I agree with you. You know, obviously I'm against this kind of political violence. I think it's bad that anybody should be killed regardless of their views. But yeah, I particularly despise Mohammed Hijab for sort of, you know, sneaking in this sort of veiled, you know, you better watch out, better watch your back. Don't be, you know, saying anything too, you know, incendiary, especially against my religion. I think it's worth exposing that because this is always his message. Is always the Islamist message of let's get those blasphemy laws on the books, and that's what I
Yeah.
think the underlying message is on that video. What about you, Mo? What do you think?
Yeah, like, yeah, I basically agree with what you guys are saying. And it's just essentially just you've got a Dawa bro who follows a religion that teaches, not in all parts of the world, but nonetheless teaches and practices prosecution, killing apostates, and he's suddenly saying, yeah, free speech is not a good thing, or doesn't exist. I mean, of course they would say that, right? Or he would say
Yeah,
that.
doesn't exist as a concept. He says as he exercises his free speech on the video.
This is the
If it
thing.
does,
This
it
is the thing.
shouldn't.
It's very silly.
So yeah,
Yeah, well, yeah, I think that was it was interesting to go through, and I also want to give a special thanks to Mo for coming on here and giving his story for the first half of the show. I think it was fascinating. It was really great to have you on. And if you ever want to come back on the panel, because you know you gave some good insights, and we'd love to have we'd like having ex-Muslims on. So if you're interested at all in the future, Mo, I can throw you the link and you can come back on and do it again if you are interested.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Like I said, big fan, but also happy I could be of some help and maybe help some Muslims who are struggling out there right now, thinking, is it easy or is it hard to leave? Drop a message in, like I said, Drastics Discord if you want to talk to me anyway. So yeah, thanks. And I'll happily come back as well, yeah.
Thanks
Brilliant.
for making yourself available.
Well, as I say, no pressure or anything, but just if you fancy having a chat or watch the video or whatever and helping us out with that'd be great. Thanks to everyone in the chat. It's been very lively. Sorry, while we were doing the video, I really wasn't paying that much attention to what was being said. So sorry I didn't get to people's comments, but I thought it was more important to be addressing Mr. Hijab on this. But thank you everyone who's participated, all our regulars, and I think there's been a few new people in there. So thank you to everyone. We will be back on Friday of next week at 8 p.m, the usual time. And I think we're going to be doing another Sunday show next week as well. So we are coming thick and fast on the Gin and Tonic show at the moment.
Oh, yeah.
And
I forgot about that because it's going to be Mary about existence of Muhammad according to the Sunnah.
Yes, our Christian lady who was on some weeks ago, and she was going to come back against what Snops was saying about the historical Muhammad. So that will probably be Sunday. That should be Sunday next week, and we'll have another show in our usual slot on Friday. So everybody, put them in your diaries. 2 more dates, and we might go on Discord for a bit now. But yeah, so thanks everyone. I will wrap things up. Have a great week, and we will see you next Friday.
Toodaloo.